This video is sponsored by Premium Sound, one of the UK's premier dealers located in Kensington, London, with an online store carrying a comprehensive inventory to cater for a variety of needs. For more details, click the link in the description. I have to say that I've been quite comfortable being a digital-only audiophile over the past 30 or so years. As I'm just about to embark on my vinyl journey, I'm reminded of how much digital audio has improved over the last decade or so. It was only a little over 10 years ago when the Audiolab DAC was still ruling the roost as the most decorated DAC in Europe, below £1,000, having won a Product of the Year award from What Hi-Fi for 5 consecutive years up to 2015, an ISA award, and topping Hi-Fi Choice group tests. Towards the end of 2015, Chord launched their Mojo, a combined DAC and portable headphone amplifier. Still a Delta Sigma design, but deploying Rob Watt's proprietary filter mapped onto an FPGA, offering better spatial abilities than the Audiolab DAC. It wasn't until 2020 before the goalpost shifted again. Denafrips' breakthrough product was the IAs I, an R2R ladder DAC design, beautifully constructed inside with precision resistors and a power supply of a quality previously not seen in the sub £1,000 sector. Denafrips have gone from strength to strength. They're the benchmark these days, not just below £1,000, but up to £5,000, possibly even higher than that. R2R ladder DACs, by their very nature, are more expensive to build if designed correctly, so surely a sub £300 one isn't going to set new standards in the marketplace. Oh really? The Fiio K13 retails in the UK for £279. I'm immediately struck by the quality of the build, as the chassis is constructed from one billet of aluminium with the internals machined out. This will help to suppress vibrations from affecting sensitive electronics. The K13 has a central LCD display, a 4.4mm balanced headphone output is on the left, and a conventional 6.3mm headphone jack on the right. Power is generous at 1.2 watts single-ended and 2.4 watts balanced into a 32 ohm load. The two rotary dials are for input selection and volume control. Signal attenuation is achieved by an NJW1195A chip. It's an R2R ladder analog chip, which shouldn't suffer the levels of signal degradation of digital chips that typically throw away bit depth as the signal is reduced in volume. The left dial also accesses the menus. I'll go through the salient features later. For now, let's move on. Notice the USB port on the right for the convenience of connecting mobile streaming devices. A remote control with essential functions is also provided. On the rear are balanced XLR analog outputs. The K13, unlike the cheaper K11 R2R DAC, has a fully balanced architecture from input all the way through to output. There are also two sets of single-ended RCA outputs. The four digital inputs include coax, optical, USB and Bluetooth. I do wish there was a full-size USB connection on the rear to accept a wider range of cables, especially given that there's already a USB-C port on the side, but hey-ho. Another reason I opted for the K13 over the £149 K11 version is that it comes with a proper 30-watt shielded switch mode power supply, as opposed to a cheap and cheerful Wallwart. Cleverly, the internal power supply can be easily bypassed. There's a DC power input rated at 12 volts, 2.5 amps. This can be used to connect to external power supplies of superior quality. Fiio is planning to release the matching PL70 in the early part of 2026. Details at the moment are sketchy, but apparently it's a 70-watt linear power supply that I expect to be offered at a reasonable price. Finally, I'd like to comment about the DAC architecture. 4 channels are configured in a fully differential 24-bit R2R ladder resistor array, 48 resistors per array, 192 in total, matched to a 0.1% precision with a low temperature drift. It's not the 0.01% precision offered by an entry-level Denafrips Enyo, which theoretically should result in an extra 3 to 4 bits of resolution, but as is often the case, theory is one thing, practice another. Okay, before I get into this, I need to set some expectations. There's some very good DACs for less than 200 quid from Topping and SMSL. They usually offer the latest and greatest chips from ESS and AKM, but these days competition is fierce and there are other Chinese brands getting in on the act. The £179 Fozzy Audio ZD3 is such a device, based around an ESS 9039 Q2M chip, well constructed and packed full of features. It even has HDMI ARC for easy integration with TVs. It's resolving and surprisingly neutral sounding. I strongly suspect it's good enough to see off that Audiolab MDAC from 15 years ago. That was king of the hill below £1,000. Yeah, and it's less than 180 quid. That's how much digital audio has improved. However, like many of its SMSL and Topping counterparts, the ZD3 doesn't sound totally natural. The soundstage is flat. There's a lack of body to notes. It is possible to get a fuller sound from off-the-shelf Delta Sigma DAC chips. Cambridge Audio managed to do this with the £349 DacMagic 200M using two ESS Sabre 9028 Q2M chips in a dual mono configuration. I bet what Cambridge Audio engineers have done is tune the output stage to add a little bit of second harmonic distortion, adding some richness to the sound. Their skill in achieving this is that there's no loss of detail compared to similar price offerings from Topping and SMSL. That's why the DacMagic 200M has remained one of my favourite DACs below £500. But things are about to change. It's comfortably outclassed by the Fiio K13. This R2R ladder DAC is significantly more resolving, the bass is tighter, mid-range transients have superior attack, and the high frequencies sound more open. The K13 also delivers on what R2R ladder DACs are renowned for. The soundstage is wide, deep and layered. There's decent body to notes. It's not warm sounding or cool sounding. The Fiio just sounds realistic. This week's music suggestion is Colours by Grammy-nominated Black Pumas. The Fiio K13 captures the essence of Eric Burton's soulful and gritty vocals, from an earthy croon to an uplifting falsetto. Adrian Cusada's guitar solo also sounds glorious, with an authentic bite to his Fender Telecaster. Chord Mojo 2 may well be the only other game in town for a DAC that sonically competes with the K13, but the Mojo 2 is not ideal for a desktop environment. It has automatic input switching, which can be a little bit problematic, as sometimes it hangs on to inputs. Besides, it's no longer here, as it was returned shortly after I reviewed it in April 2022, but I still have the original Chord Mojo here as a common point of reference. Mojo 1 has a very similar warm tone to the Cambridge Audio DacMagic 200M, but with a slightly wider soundstage and a bit more bass weight. This sounds slow and coloured in comparison to the K13. The Mojo 2 is a refinement of this DAC, more neutral and slightly cleaner sounding. I still don't think it reaches the overall levels of fidelity of the Fiio K13. So let's up the game. My Denafrips Aries 12-1 has essentially been rebadged as the Enyo 15th, and the price dropped from £1,065 when I reviewed it back in February 2024 to £690 currently in 2026. That's how aggressive the market is. Despite the Denafrips having more precisely matched resistors, a fancier power supply and heavier casework, it doesn't show in sonic performance when comparing like-for-like inputs, i.e. coaxial, optical and USB. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit stunned given the difference in price. The Enyo has the slightly wider soundstage and a little bit more upper mid-range refinement, but the K13 literally hits back with tighter bass and crisper mid-range transient attack. The preferences between them come down to personal taste. For example, vocals and lead instruments sit a little bit more forward with the K13 due to more emphasis in the presence region. Both these DACs deliver the best sound I've heard to date from digital to analog converters below £1,000, but the Denafrips Enyo 15th has an ace up its sleeve. It has an I2S connection. I2S doesn't have the master clock, word clock and music data multiplexed together during transfer like SPDIF connections. I'm talking about coaxial, optical and AES EBU, and the noise floor is often lower than what's achievable from USB. Through I2S, the Enyo's bass and mid-range transients tighten up, the soundstage opens up and fidelity increases. it justifies the extra price increase over the K13 if you have a transport that can exploit it, but there's still some things you need to know to get the best out of this Fiio DAC. The sound of the Fiio K13 is wonderfully consistent through its digital coaxial, optical and USB inputs. I don't use Bluetooth and I'm not much of a headphone listener, although the reputation is that there's a very good headphone amplifier inside. What I can tell you is that the chip-based R2R ladder analog volume control is excellent. I have no hesitation in recommending it to use with powered speakers or connect directly to a power amplifier. On this occasion, digital-only users do not need a separate preamp. Let me talk you through the main menu functions. Some are very useful, others are a bit gimmicky. The output can be set to engage the preamplifier, a fixed line level output, or a headphone output. The gain can be set to low, medium or high to suit various headphones and IEMs. Oversampling can be switched on or off, but the K13 sounds much cleaner with oversampling on. You can ask the Fiio DAC to decode DST files natively or convert to PCM in the D2P setting. There are various parametric EQ presets. This is a gimmick, they butcher sound quality. The user-defined PEQs may be more handy for those with compromised setups that wish to alter the tonal balance, but use them subtly. 10 user-defined presets can be stored. To make the frequency adjustments, download the Fiio control app on your iOS or Android device. Parametric EQ allows for much more precise control over the frequency range than tone controls. The frequency, amplitude and severity of the slope can all be altered. The colours of the RGB light show can also be altered. I'm not one for bling, so I prefer the display off, but I have to confess a little subtle glow to the R2R ladder window to provide visual interest was appreciated even by this conservative audiophile. Other functions include a balance control, selection between USB working modes 1 or 2, adjustments to the brightness of the display, the time the display remains on, the brightness of the R2R window, brightness of the LEDs around the dials, and the time before the unit goes into sleep if no signal is detected. As for partnering equipment, I can sum it up pretty briefly. The Fiio K13 is an upgrade to the internal DACs fitted to any of the amplifiers I've reviewed, regardless of price. I know that's quite a statement, so let me give you an example. I prefer its sound to the internal DAC fitted in the Hagel H400, and that's an amplifier that retails for just under £6,000. As for external DACs, I think you're going to have to spend appreciably more before you get a significant improvement in sound quality. I'd budget at least £1,500. Okay, time to wrap things up. The world of digital audio seldomly sits still. What Fiio have pulled off with the K13 for less than £300 should be celebrated. The K13 offers class-leading levels of resolution, tonality, sound staging and imagery, all in a well-constructed, visually appealing package. I don't recall the last time I encountered a DAC that so comfortably outperformed its competitors in its market segment. Actually, I do. It was over 5 years ago when I reviewed the Denafrips Aries II, and that brand went on to dominate the marketplace. I don't have a crystal ball to tell you where Fio's heading, but if you've got less than £500 to spend on the DAC, this is the daddy. The Fiio K13 R2R ladder DAC emphatically gets an outstanding from this channel. My question for today is, what are your favourite DACs and what do you like about them? Maybe some of the ones you don't like at the same time. Please let me know in the comments section. I'm sure you know what to do if you want to support me here and what I do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check me out on Patreon. There's a couple of tiers you can access there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. Also check out the ABA Club on Patreon, which has some great ways to interact with me and fellow Patrons. But for today, for now, British Audiophile, signing off.